Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Play action, Mayfield in the pocket, steps up, rifles it over the middle, picked off by the Colts. They're running the other way with it, and that's Ronnie Harrison. Minshew out of the gun, first and goal for the Colts at the 4, and they hand it off to Taylor, left side, spinning his way towards the goal line. He's in! Touchdown for Jonathan Taylor. Now motions out wide to the right side. Rolling out right is Gardner Minshew. He's at the 5, going to take off and run, makes a man miss, and knifes his way into the end zone. Touchdown! A rushing score. 3rd down and 4 for the Colts. They've got the ball at the 14-yard line in their own territory. Minshew to pass and throws it upfield and almost intercepted. It is picked off. Now it's 1st and goal at the 1-yard line for Baker Mayfield. Out of the gun, shotgun snap to him. Lofts it left side, wide open, and that's a catch, but we do have a flag on the field. For the time being, Mike Evans, who was all alone in the end zone, rolling out to his left is Mayfield. Squares, throws downfield. That's a catch, touchdown, and again, it's Mike Evans, his 2nd receiving score of the ball game. Minshew turns. No, it's play action. Throws over the middle, wide open, Mo Alley-Cox. He's at the 30, the 25, and then it's pushed forward down to the 20-yard line. Shotgun snap, gives it to Taylor, and he backpedals his way in. Touchdown! Jonathan Taylor. Shotgun snap for Mayfield. In the pocket. The ball is stripped. The ball is out. Around the 38-yard line. No signal yet. Colts ball! It's Colts ball with a recovery by Dio Adangbo. And a strip sack by Samson Ebukam. And they knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 27-20.
There you go. I heard Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts. I heard Rick Venturi, the color commentator. Colts Radio Network with the call, and the Colts over 500 now and planted as we get to the end of November, ending week number 12 later on tonight on Monday Night Football. And then when we hit on the calendar, early December, this team right now is in position in the postseason as a wild card. It is absolutely crazy. But what is even crazier, like I don't get this a lot anymore because I think most people that listen to the show, you know my stance. I got so endlessly sick and tired of the entertaining losses jazz. I mean, sick of it. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I really do hate to call people names. But nerds, you got to stop it. I don't care. Seriously, I don't give one you-know-what about where they draft coming up at the end of April. When you get the opportunity to win some games, and I don't care if they're taking advantage of a soft spot in an incredibly soft schedule, good. Take advantage of it. I thought this team was going to win 6 games, and that's where they are right now. What did I say about the Pacers last year? What did I say about the Colts this year? Undersell, over-deliver. And I don't care how you look at it. Not at all. This team is playing without its future at quarterback, and that is a bummer. I mean, really, it's a lost season anyway, so what's that saying? Maybe it's just from Southern Indiana. What the hell, might as well. That's like a late night saying back in the day. What the hell, might as well. I have no problem with it whatsoever. And when I see they can't go that deep in the postseason, so what good is it? What do you mean? For those that pay and go? That's why you're out there participating. There's such a defeatist attitude because, and I understand it, you have lived through most recently so much losing. So much of a circus. So if this team can continue to win, which you look at their schedule and you ask yourself, I agree with you. Why not? Why can they not continue to win games? Now, granted, I know this for sure. you can't look ahead. And the coaches always say this because this is coach speak. We got to take this 1 week at a time. But with this team, you do, because they just might end up screwing this up in some form or fashion. Really, they might. I mean, it might be a costly turnover. It might end up being, the defense letting somebody get behind them and scoring. Seriously, how should I put this? Their margin for error is incredibly flimsy. And sometimes you do have to have something go right. I was trying to think about what went right yesterday, and maybe it was this. After they go into the half and Gardner Minshew was completely losing it out there, yet Shane Steichen continued to throw it. I thought that offensively they came back out in the second half, got right in the third quarter. Yeah, I thought Shane Steichen regained control of, okay, this is what you need to do when you have a game breaker. We didn't have an argument on this yesterday, but on the Colts pregame huddle, we were talking about game breakers on this team, and I think you have one, and that's Jonathan Taylor. And to me, it is wrong on every different level not to utilize that as much as you can. Granted, I know when you stack the box and all these buzz terms in football, I don't care. You keep other teams honest because this is the lone threat that you have. And part of the argument was, well, I think Josh Downs is a threat. And while fine, I hope that one of these days he can be considered that. But they have one threat. One. And then a bunch of other guys that are just stepping in yesterday, as you saw, against this Tampa Bay team that made some plays. Good. That is good. Will Mallory made a great catch. Great call by Shane Steichen in the second half on fourth down. It was a Tom Manning, tight ends coach, call from earlier in the week. Good. And then the defense made some plays, as you heard Matt and Rick talking about during the play-by-play call at the end of that game yesterday. Yeah, it's interesting. You didn't really leave it in the hands of positions and players to where you don't have a great deal of trust. That makes sense to you? I mean, yesterday you saw Taylor score a couple of different times. I mean, it was in the hands of the guys where you want it to be in their hands. Yeah, defensively, yeah, they got after Baker Mayfield there late, created that turnover, salted away the game. But no, you can't really. You can look at the schedule, and believe me, I have. You can look at the schedule and you can go, hey, these games are winnable, and they are, but that's exactly what the other teams are saying about the Colts. But the Colts right now have positioned themselves nicely to start December. And then when you watched, I don't know, maybe we're going to see in December, again, we shall note it if it happens, but maybe we're going to see a not-so-subtle change in finally some good fortune happening. Can you imagine? Now, granted, I know you're just all kind of waiting. As a Reds fan, I understand this completely. I just kind of wait until something goes haywire. Because like June of last summer, you know that there's no way in hell the Reds will allow you to be that happy. So with this Colts team, over recent history, you sit and you wait for the bad stuff. The good fortune has been fleeting. So now maybe you see what's all going on. I think really the only team that would be concerning here moving forward that won yesterday was Denver. But you have Tennessee coming up on Sunday, and you have Cincinnati with Jake Browning, the quarterback. Cincinnati, a loser yesterday, 5-6, all but done. Now, I know you look at other teams there and you kind of wonder what they may look like. Like, that matchup with Houston. And really, when you look at it, I think nobody is satisfied with losing and, hey, that was the old college try and that was great. You want to see this team win, and that's what I've been talking about all along. It's okay to grow and win in the process. You don't have to lose and then, take one for the team, and, that's a character builder. Yeah, the hell with that. If you can win games, win games. And they can figure out exactly who they're going to draft and where they're going to draft coming up at a later date. But now, yesterday was incredibly enjoyable. I don't know if there is one spot that you can just point to and go, all right, well, that's the reason why. Because I think everybody had some moments of letdown, but then everybody kind of made some plays, especially in that second half. You realize that, running the football, whether we're talking about Jonathan Taylor or Zach Moss, is a good thing. Will Mallory, as I mentioned, had a nice catch. Michael Pittman Jr. continued to be the go-to for Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew, other than that initial mistake, and you could tell when there was a miscommunication between he and Josh Downs, after that point, you could tell that things were not quite right upstairs for Gardner Minshew. Things were a bit scrambled because he had a number of throws that could have easily been game changers. And that's the good fortune that I'm talking about. Maybe you get that. Now, I had mentioned this is a lost season. Well, it's a lost season because Anthony Richardson is not participating. And while there is a great deal of substance and truth to that, I mean, you could turn this into a very memorable season. There's really nothing more memorable that you think about in terms of sports as to when the favorite team of yours is the underdog and, against all odds, I'll put that up in air quotes, Phil Collins. Against all odds, you end up getting to a place that nobody thought. See, you as Colts fans will be able to say, hi, JMV, yeah, 6 wins that. Hey, national media, take that with your under 6.5 wins. I told you. And that's cool. That is cool. And we often understand, if I'm allowed to tell you that I told you so, then why would you not be allowed to do the same to me? Hey, I told you. Hey, numbnuts, yeah, what's this 6-win stuff here? Way to go. Good call. As for me, I want this to maintain competitive and interesting as long as humanly possible, because my offseason is going to be inundated with questions, with calls at 239-1070 regarding the durability of Anthony Richardson. And as I told you last month, actually, as I've told you when he got injured and was done for the season, I am not ready to start that right now. We're going to be swallowed up by that conversation. And while we're in the football season, why not be able to talk about things that happen on the football field? Colts are giving themselves an opportunity right now at 6-5. Texans go down yesterday in what was a super thriller to the Jaguars. 54 yards. How about that? Hit the crossbar from 54. That should be worth to me, honestly. If you were going back and doing this, if you were able to hit the crossbar from 54 yards, you should at least get a couple of points out of that. Oh, I don't know. Really, maybe more. It's certainly more difficult to do that. Maybe give them 6 points out of that. 5 points. 5.5 points. Yeah, I know, stupid. But still. And it was about a yard away. I think that C.J. Stroud had been sacked a couple of plays prior, moved it back, or else that would have been much more interesting had they not had that level of lost yardage. But that was a fantastic game. Bills lose as they are ushering themselves out of any postseason consideration. They lose on the road, obviously late in that late game in Philadelphia. Bradley Cooper's very happy today. I love it. It is such a weird mentality. How many national people said yesterday the Eagles are the worst, most unimpressive 10-1 team in NFL history? Good Lord. We are surrounded by dorks. There's no question about that. I will take it. I want to be the most unimpressive 10-1 of all time, please. Please, can I be that? So I want to talk some Colts with you about yesterday and then moving forward, that matchup with Tennessee. And believe me, it is not out of the realm of my thought that the Colts could go to Nashville and lose that game. I mean, you look at their schedule still, and while it looks good to eyeball it, they could lose anywhere, anytime, and anyhow. Seriously, they could. But they have positioned themselves, and I'm not even going to allow you to think about what would have happened in the Cleveland game or in the Rams game. None of that. They have positioned themselves right now to be a team reckoned with in the playoff picture. And nobody should care about how you get there as long as you get there, especially not in this season. Especially not in this season. Hey, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. You know, not in a week where you release Shaquille Leonard, which I don't know about anybody else, but I thought that was cool. I don't know exactly what was going on around it. I don't know if Shaquille Leonard's going to end up in Dallas or end up in Philly later on this week. And when they played that video, I was up in the press box trying to warm up again. But I was up in the press box, and I was wondering, wow, that's pretty cool. And then when he was actually there, I thought that was really cool. Just let's all put ourselves in a similar position to see how we would respond. And I'm going to give him full credit. Full credit for going. Would you show up at some event if the company you were working for had just let you go? Now, if there was something in it for you, don't get me wrong, sure. But there's no way. There's zero way. I know me. There's zero. I mean, first of all, it's kicking and screaming anyway. I just thought, and this has nothing to do with him being able to tackle anybody or his game declining or the direction in which the Colts have decided to go at linebacker. It just, that is a very human thing. That's cool. I mean, we live in a place right now where we don't get enough of that. Like, I thought yesterday that was really cool, and then we're going to be surrounded by 10 examples of jackassery that will overtake that cool situation, but still, it is there. I can't be the only one that feels that way. I thought it was really cool. And then I thought to myself, see, there's no way I would be man enough to probably do that. And I'm just being honest with you right now. Well, you know what? He did it for the fans. Well, I don't care why he did it, but I thought it was a hell of a moment. And I would have to question why you would consider that otherwise with Shaquille Leonard. So, hoping for the best for Shaquille Leonard, no matter what happens moving forward. But the Colts putting that together and then him sitting up there, well, we need more of those type of moments. Less of Barstool putting up some little kid wanting to shake the hand of a Buffalo fan and then giving him the finger, which was probably made up anyway. But, I don't need that. Like, my kids would have been grounded for like a month. Hey, look at this. They're bringing this kid up right in Philly. And again, it was probably made for video right there. Made to go on websites and to be viral. But, yeah, I don't think it takes me being old and crusty to suggest that is incredible jackassery. Yet compared to what we witnessed with the video and Shaquille Leonard, yeah, you take that moment every day of the week. I'm just wondering how often it ever works out that way. When's that ever happened? You get cut, they are sitting up there waving. Nah, pretty cool. We can hit that if you guys like it, 239-1070. Tom Allen was fired by IU as the football coach. Tony Katz was asking me a little bit earlier today where I thought they were going to go. And this is not an original thought at all, but my first impression is you have to go and get somebody that's already established something. I mean, you're going to throw a dart at the dartboard of, hey, maybe this is going to be exciting. Now, granted, I don't care who you hire if they do become interesting and they do win some games. I don't care how you get there. It just doesn't seem like, and I guess this is just because in general it's IU football, there doesn't seem like this all in all gotta be a reasonable path. Like, I would say you have to have somebody that's already been a part of building a program. And then I sat here with Jake a moment ago. He brought up Paul Chryst, and I go, okay, great. And again, that's not a bad thought by him because the guy has done that. The guy has won. But it just doesn't really float my boat, I guess. And then I brought up to Tony Katz, and hell, I don't even know what this guy does. Like, everybody's talking about Willie Fritz down at Tulane. Again, I don't care about what path you take to become relevant and no longer a laughingstock. But again, we've been at this moment so many different times, and we end up saying the same thing. It would be great if Scott Dolson could trip the light fantastic on it. There is nothing that jumps off the page of, yep, you got to do that. That makes the most sense. Yeah, a couple of $7.5 million payouts into this year and then into next year for Tom Allen. And I'm assuming at some point he'll go back in a couple of years and coach some football someplace else, be a part of it. And I have zero against Tom Allen. He's been nothing but nice to me. But there was no way in the world you're going to be able to move forward. And whomever they hire is going to have one hell of a pitch because the good players that were on a 3-win team are all bouncing. Donovan McCulley within the last hour, a player that I absolutely love. I do. Big, strong, wide receiver. You really felt if there was something that came together, and you can make the argument with Sorsby, but I would make more of an argument with McCulley. If there was something that really came together in a bad season for IU, it is I wonder what level in which this kid can take this to. Continuing to get used to the position, having the athleticism, being 6'5", there's a lot of stuff to like there. But whomever gets this gig is going to have to re-recruit. In this case, a couple that I'm assuming that IU fans would like to have back. So we'll talk about that job search. We'll talk about the championship games conference-wise coming up this weekend. Then, of course, the playoff picture. Dan Wetzel of YahooSports.com going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. There is a ton to talk about. Michigan over Ohio State. Ohio State wants rid of Ryan Day. Alabama and Auburn. Hagan and I, we went to see Kiss on Saturday night, and we were down at Coach's Tavern on the big screen watching the end of that game. And I'll give it up to Hagan. Hagan said, man, if Auburn is not going to rush anybody, they're going to rush two and then put everybody back and let this kid sit back in the pocket and wander around and find somebody. They're going to find somebody. And, man, did they ever. Ouch. Which probably will incredibly muddy up the picture. But that was a Hagan call right there. Dan Wetzel of Yahoo is coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com. We'll talk about the Colts and more with Stephen coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Remember, everybody, we're off earlier today. We got the Pacers coming up later on tonight. It's not Pacers and Raptors tonight, is it? They got that up to Pacers and Blazers tonight, right? Who wrote that up there? Come on now. Went to see the Pacers and the Pistons on Friday night. Awesome atmosphere. Good times to be had by all. Threw some milkshakes at the kids. Had some fun. Watched a little hoop. Good weekend, all in all. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend with you, your friends, and the family as well. All right, I got plenty of time for you as well. Go ahead and soak this up. We'll take your calls on the other side at 239-1070. Email address, jmv1075thefan.com. Inside the Win Schuler's Spreadable Cheese Lounge, that is YouTube Live. I think you know the drill with the stream, right? The stream, the app, get us that way. A lot of people say, hey, man, your FM signal. And I go, hey, the stream, the app. And did you know if you own a car that was manufactured, I think, after 2010, then the likelihood that you have HD radio locked and loaded in there is very high. So this is something that you may want to investigate. But if you think I sound good right now, I sound like golden tones on HD radio. You're going to love it. All right, I also want to ask you this, and I know it's going to piss some people off of the IHSAA, but I have to ask about whether or not you watched the state finals in football. And again, a shout out to all the winners. But certainly to me, I got inundated with everybody saying, A, where is it? And B, I've got to stream this and pay for it. Why is it not on TV? And you might as well get ready for it. All the championship events are going to be that way, including basketball. Both girls and boys. So buckle up for it. How many of you watched? How many of you found zero issue? How many of you were pissed off about the process? Get into that coming up, too. I get that and a lot more. Again, Pacers coming up later on tonight, too. We're off at 5:30, so make sure you get in. 239-1070. Again, the stream, the app, HD Radio, the lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Oh, not the
now. BullseyeEventGroup.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Look up idiot in the dictionary. You know what you'll find?
Picture me?
No! The definition of the word idiot, which you are.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Minshew out of the gun. First and goal for the Colts at the 4. And they hand it off to Taylor, left side, spinning his way towards the goal line. He's in. Touchdown for Jonathan Taylor. And Indianapolis makes the Buccaneers pay with points off of the takeaway. Indianapolis has their first lead and the first touchdown of the game. It's 9-3.
Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts right there. Shane Steichen, I know, knows a great deal about offense. Never, ever lose sight of the fact that your game breaker resides in the jersey that is number 28. Don't lose sight of that. Yesterday, in that second quarter, he lost sight of it. And I don't know. You can make excuses for it. They won the 6-5, so I'm not here to be all critical about that. But during the game yesterday, everybody was pretty critical about that. Just don't lose sight. You don't have to be on every single moment, smarter than the entire room. Sometimes, James in the easy chair at home watching the game is right as much as you're right. So don't lose sight of that. This portion of the show brought to you by the Shane Company. 'Tis the season to shine. Fine jewelry since 1929. Visit Shane Company or shaneco.com today. I'd mentioned some calls. We'll get to those coming up in just a bit. A lot of outstanding reaction. It's from Shane. JMV, the first year in a long time I can remember that the state football games were not on our TV Friday and Saturday. Now, I didn't always sit down and watch every play of every game, but the game was on the tube. Not this weekend. JMV is cool. IHSAA sucks. I think that this is a bad decision, too. Now, people are going to point at me going, old, crusty guy that wishes he was still dialing on a rotary phone. And while that's not altogether wrong, I still wish that there was an option. I've said this all along, and I've even brought us into the equation, too. I want there to be, what do you think? I tell you all the ways and means in which you can get this show. Because I want you with me. I don't want to give you a reason to go, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to jack with it. I do anyway, right? My voice, my sound, my takes, my lack of knowledge, my little tiny brain, not having the smarts real good, all that stuff is already a deterrent. But I need to give you every avenue in which to join this show. Plus, there are a zillion options out there. There are so many other jackasses out there. I don't want to give you the opportunity to go anywhere else. I want to get you here and keep you. Get you here and keep you. And if I'm the IHSAA, I would think about that too, because, Shane, I felt the same way. Go out, Black Friday, we go to Sullivan Hardware and Garden, which has been a tradition for, 5 or 6 years now. Go back home, turn it on. Really don't care who's on, but, just on. And you're right, you may not watch it in its entirety, but you are dialed in and just kind of felt much differently. So maybe that is the price that we pay to move forward. I would want to make sure that it is reasonable for everybody. You're going to say, well, it is. I mean, people can pay and get right on there and you can stream. That's the other thing they're going to bristle at is $15 for one game, $20 for all games. I never want to give anybody, because again, I represent that myself here. I don't want to give you more of a reason to bail on me. God forbid over at JJK they're playing Mr. Mister's Broken Wings right now, and you guys are all jumping. Somewhere David Wood's laughing about that in this building. But seriously, I'd be very careful with that in mind. And, don't look at, if the numbers are legit and you didn't miss it whatsoever, absolutely. Tout it, tell me that I'm wrong. But don't lie about them. Don't spin them to where it makes you feel better. I mean, look at them, digest them, and if they're good, great, then you did the right thing. And if they're not, you don't want to remain in that position. Just a thought. Just a thought. It's from Nick. JMV, no way Leonard should have been there. I don't know how you think it's cool. It's weird. I don't see it as manly. It's like someone broke up with you and you still hang out with them. Or like a couple of divorces and they still live together and try to make an excuse. Man, what was not cool about that? I think you're looking at that way too damn deep. I think it is definitely manly that he shows up. And this is not me saying, well, look, the Colts are great because they did this. Not at all. I just think there's no way in the world. See, Nick, I would think like you because we're both huge wussies, and we would not have shown up. You and I are the same. We're brothers. We're bros. I wouldn't have shown up either because I'm a wuss. You and me would have stayed and played checkers. We'd played Boggle at home. Nah, I thought it was cool. I don't know how in the world you can reasonably suggest that it wasn't. All right, 239-1070. Eric is up first today. Eric, thanks for joining the show. How are you, sir?
I am well, and I want to thank you for being the voice of reason. I think you've nailed it to the wall.
Man, let me tell you this, Eric. I am dumb as a stump, brother. Come on now.
Well, you are right, though. I mean, this was a farce. I couldn't even get it on my phone. You know what it said? I'll make it short. It said, out of your area.
Yeah. And listen, and maybe everybody else is more savvy than you are, than I am. I think that was a heavy jump to make, and giving people a heads up of a month and a half or 2 months was not good enough. That would be me.
Well, and you know what it did?
What did it do?
JMV, it still took my money.
Oh, did it really? Ooh, that's not good. That's
okay.
Not good. It took your money that you couldn't watch, huh? Yee.
That's right. Now, the other thing happened.
Yeah.
I've tried to subscribe to Valley Sports. It took my money. Pacers not available in your area. So I canceled for next month.
Well, I would be calling somebody up, I just don't know who, to get a little support on that, Eric, at some point.
Well, that's the reason.
Like you need me to tell you that, right? So.
Say again, I'm sorry?
Like you need me to tell you that. You want to get your money back.
Well, I want everybody to be aware of what's going on, and I know you do, and that's why I wanted to call you, because I thought I'd see if we could track down if Severn, Indiana, as you know, I'm in Vincent.
Right.
If we are truly blacked out here on Pacers basketball, and you have listeners down here, let me tell you. And if we could let people know, that would be great, you know. I mean, it's fine if you are, but we don't want them taking people's money.
No. I don't. I'll find out for you. See, I'm different because it was just kind of out of sight, out of mind, other than listening to it on the radio. And I know everybody here did a great job in doing that radio-wise. I listened to it when I was out and about. And, Eric, thank you for the call. I got to hit a break here. But, yeah, if I find out, I'm sure somebody from the IHSAA will give me a little heads up as to why it charged you and you didn't get the product that you had purchased. What about Tom Herman at IU? Tom Herman, where is he right now? Rex, Houston, I believe? No, that was where is Tom Herman right now? That was Dana Holgerson just got fired, I think, at Houston. Former West Virginia coach. It is weird about it, Rex. There just does not seem like, and hopefully for IU football fans, you've been hoping for a long time, but hopefully you have an athletic director that's been out in front of this, because there's going to be a lot of mess to clean up here. A lot of selling the program, selling the product. And that is going to really take a great deal of savvy and smarts here. JMV, a win is a win, and I love that, but 100% agree Minshew doesn't need to be our savior when they're up 17-3 in the second. That was really weird, too, and we've seen that a couple of times Shane Steichen fall into that area of where, and maybe I'm completely inaccurate, but to me it feels like I'm the smartest guy in the room, and I'm going to make sure that I outfox everybody. I'm going to outthink everybody in the room. When all you have to do, thank you, when all you have to do is really, I don't want to say exhaust in terms of him physically, but don't lose sight of the fact that 28 is your only offensive game breaker. Nothing against Michael Pittman Jr., who is steady as hell. Nothing against him at all. But your game breaker, your difference maker resides in the backfield, and you paid him, extended him as such. He wears number 28. Don't lose sight of that. Sometimes it's okay if you're the head coach and you have the smarts real good offensively, but you also have a similar thought as Greg in the stands or James in the easy chair at home. It's okay. And maybe we're completely inaccurate about that, but it just looked like and especially when you saw Minshew was scrambled, and not in terms of, the pocket collapsing on him, but in terms of mind decision-making was scrambled, and he was doing a lot of stuff that was beyond detrimental to this team winning. Now, second half, they made up for it. I thought that initial possession of the third quarter had a lot to do with it. But, yeah, in the second quarter, they certainly seemed like that they lost sight of things a little bit. JMV, this is now two coaches we're telling to run the damn ball. Maybe it's us. Yes. I think, really, Brian, it does have a lot to do with us. Because sometimes they run the damn ball and you go, why don't you pass the damn ball? So it does have a lot to do with us. I just don't think in the second quarter at that point in the game it had much to do with us. I think it had everything to do with the head coach. Visit Shane Co. for fine jewelry made with the greatest care. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com. 'Tis the season to shine. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929. Quick break. Back with you next.
There's a more intelligent way to keep your home
1929.
The Ride with JMV.
And you could tell Rolling Stone magazine that my last words were, I'm on drugs.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now motions out wide to the right side. Rolling out right is Gardner Minshew. He's at the 5. Going to take off and run. Makes a man miss. And knights his way into the end zone. Touchdown. A rushing score. Gardner Minshew finds the end zone. Touchdown. INDY. And the Colts have their second touchdown of the game. They now lead 16-3.
Was that me? Well, that was you over there. I was going to say, how could that be me? Somebody from Bloomington, ironically enough, was calling right there. I think it was worthy. Is it worthy of a voicemail message to me, or is that going to be I'm going to hang up because it's like 3:51 and he's probably on the radio? What do you think? What do you think?
I'd say probably the latter.
Probably the latter. Kurt's in here, too. He's got to relearn how to do this board so he doesn't screw it up when he gets in here. James, you going on vacation soon?
I am. I'm going next week.
Where are you going? To Mexico?
Florida.
Mexico, Florida? Mexico Beach, Florida.
No.
That's a place, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to
Panhandle.
the Florida Keys.
True story. Oh, going down to the Keys, are you?
Yeah, should be nice.
Yeah. Going down to the Keys. Going to Boar's Head?
I don't think so.
Is that Boar's Head, the place down there? Or is Boar's Head? Boar's Head is like the lunch meat.
Yeah, I'm about to say, isn't it deli meat?
Hey, JMV, don't forget about Channel 13 and DirecTV. I am so used to this by now. So evidently, if you're DirecTV or AT&T, UVerse, they scrolled that last night during the Sunday night game ad nauseum. And frankly, do whatever you want to do because I don't care. I'll find other means and other ways. I'll adapt. And you jackasses can figure it out. And I said the same thing for 59 and CBS 4. I haven't watched Wish TV Channel 8 in 5 years, seriously, because they're not on it. And that doesn't affect everybody. Other people go to rabbit ears, go to alternative antennas, do whatever, cut the cord, blah, 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 FUBU, Hulu, all that. That's great. I'm not doing jack squat. I'm just not going to watch it. So seriously, you and DirecTV can just kind of piss off because I'm not going to watch it. And you probably don't care. That's all right. But I've gone through this drill before. I have seen the generic playbook that they play over this, and yeah, so be it. So be it. It's just like with Peacock. I'm not going to order Peacock either. I'm not going to sign up for it. I just go someplace where I can watch some Big Ten games if it's on Peacock. Because, frankly, I don't want Peacock. Now, I should because Days of Our Lives is now on Peacock. The hell with it. Bill, get on here before the top of the hour break. What do you got, buddy?
Hey, my man, miss you on Saturday. I'm listening to Christmas music. What's it going to take for IU to get a football coach that can coach it? Have you had a chance to talk to Fish?
I don't talk to Don until Friday, Bill. So, yes. And I doubt if he has any answers either, because if anybody would have any answers, that question would have been answered long ago. They're still searching for that answer. Yeah.
But I saw this coming. They should have won that game Saturday. That was no excuse. Missing tackles.
Yeah, he's going to get bounced anyway, though. I mean, they had the money ready to go, so they weren't going to they weren't going to be bowl eligible, so he was going to get bounced anyway.
John, a blind man could have done better than they did Saturday.
Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore because he's gone now, Billy.
Yeah, hey, Gardner Minshew was excellent yesterday.
Yeah, you didn't make all but one mistake. Thank you, Bill. I got to hit the top of the hour break. All but one mistake, and that does matter. That does matter. We'll talk about that coming up next hour. Stephen Holder, 5 o'clock hour. The IU coaching search and everything else going on in college football. Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports and your calls straight ahead. 4 o'clock hour next.
1075 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Sis boom ba. Sis boom ba. Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
A couple of feet for a first down. Minshew turns. No, it's play action. Throws over the middle. Wide open. Mo Alley-Cox. He's at the 30, the 25, and then it's pushed forward down to the 20-yard line. Make it more at the 19 for a gain of 30 yards.
Hey, welcome back. Matt Taylor, Rick Venturi right there. Colts a winner yesterday over the Buccaneers, 27-20, 6-5, and right now the 7th seed, a part of the wild card playoff picture in the AFC, which I think is outstanding. Well, JMV, they haven't won anything yet. Well, no blank. I understand that too, but I think that is outstanding. Seems like everybody was entertained yesterday. There is nothing even close to great about this team. But if you could take care of games remaining, like in Nashville on Sunday, the Bengals with Jake Browning at quarterback, got back-to-back road games. Oh, the Steelers would be a nice one at home. And really, that's one that you need. Love to see. If you're on hold, I get back to you and the thoughts on the Colts win being 6-5. And really, without Anthony Richardson playing, it is a lost season in terms of looking further down the road. But, I mean, what the hell, have some fun with it. And it seems like at this point, Colts fans are. Back to you guys and Stephen Holder of ESPN in the 5 o'clock hour. Friend of the show on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from Yahoo Sports. Got a brand new fresh pod that is out with his Yahoo friends. Dan Wetzel is with us. Hello, Dan.
How are you today?
How are things in the state of... Yes. Yeah, well, people around here, it's weird, right? Because the future is Anthony Richardson. You're not able to see the future, but there's not a damn thing wrong with living in the moment. You know what I mean, Dan?
There's something special about the unexpected NFL success, right? And no expectations. Like, just make the playoffs. That's just awesome, right? Yeah. Anything's found money. You're probably not winning it, but that's all right. It's all right. So, yeah, it should be.
Dan, if you look in history, too, like wherever you were a fan of, in the state of Michigan, the moments of which your team wasn't given a chance or written off or any of that, and then they did something with that particular season, probably go down in your history as the most memorable or some of the most memorable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a fan of any of the teams in Michigan, I think any fan base, it's that surprise season or when young players all get together, particularly in basketball, all of a sudden you can see, they kind of start gelling. But, yeah, the unexpected success. Because, look, Colts fans, they know what it was like with Manning and some of those years, and it's like you're reeling off victories, but it's like, there's still the Patriots out there. Can we get – the pressure is so great, and you're just waiting for the end instead of enjoying that week-to-week success of surprise victory. So I totally get it, man. It should be fun.
Yeah, and you get like Anthony Richardson, the sequel, a do-over, if you will, next year to see. And again, the one thing I've also said, Dan, is I don't want to have to talk about whether or not Anthony Richardson is going to be durable. I don't want to talk about it as much in the offseason, which we will. I sure as hell don't want to talk about it when the season is going on. So this is saving me from that particular theme, which is also nice, selfishly. So,
yeah, I'm not a big believer in one person is more durable than the other. Injuries just happen. It's just, I don't know. Some guys maybe are better at avoiding it, but I remember early in Matthew Stafford's career, talk about the Detroit team, Detroit with the Detroit Lions, he got injured a bunch, and then he didn't, and I think he played 12 straight years of never missing a game, and then he finally got hurt at the Rams. But you just don't know. It's all it. So I think Anthony he'll probably be fine.
It's a Dan Wetzel of YahooSports.com. We'll talk about the podcast coming up. You guys got a brand new one out, you Pat and the gang, in just a second. But you coming down here this weekend from Michigan, Iowa?
I am not, but I'm super intrigued by especially if Michigan wins, the trophy presentation. That's, I think, going to be more dramatic. I'm going to assume Michigan's going to win because if they can score 6 points, they're probably going to win. I mean, we just don't see a lot out of Iowa. Smoke and mirrors. congratulations to Kirk Ferentz for getting this team there. Maybe he deserves the scoring because he nepotismed his son into the OC job and killed their offense. But this is a team that in 9 Big Ten conference football games scored 11 offensive touchdowns.
Yeah,
and somehow won the West, went 7-2. I mean, they're 10-2. Amazing job on all that. But to me, the real excitement, presuming the game goes as it is, would be Jim Harbaugh back from suspension, up on one of those little podiums, collecting the Big Ten championship trophy from Tony Petitti, who personally suspended him for 3 games. And at one point, the two were locked in litigation that never materialized. So that ought to be interesting. I'm sure the Michigan fans won't be voicing their opinion of the Big Ten office at all. And God knows, you get on the field after games. You've been down there, championships, there's assistant coaches, there's wives, there's boosters, there's regents, there's all sorts of people. So that is going to be maybe the most interesting scene is that, unless Iowa can somehow pull off a miracle here.
To Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports with us. I kind of want to start right here, and I know this is not a nationwide hot button at all, but you're obviously in the Midwest and around Big Ten country here. What do you think is going to be the fit moving forward at IU? Now, we understand that we have not been able to find much of a long-term fit basically forever around here, but is there something out there, somebody out there that you think is within reason that seems like a really good fit for Scott Dawson, the athletic director, to make a play as the next head coach in Bloomington with IU's football program?
I mean, there's absolutely that person. It's who, do you find him? I'll tell you a guy I'm intrigued by is like Brian Hartline, who's carrying it up as a recruiter over at Ohio State, and younger guy, could maybe bring a lot of energy. I think you've got, when you're Indiana, you're going to live and die in the portal, and you're going to have to be able to convince guys to stay or come or go, put together a fit. I think the days of trying to find that guy who's going to build a solid program and develop players over 3-4 years, that just isn't how college football is working anymore. You got to create some excitement. You got to create some buzz. You got to figure out how to get kids interested in coming there and being fun and all that. It's just the game has shifted a great deal because of the portal and because of NIL money, and you just got to kind of live with it. And so I think that's why someone maybe, particularly at a place like Indiana doesn't have tradition, that's okay. You can create energy and you can create, a use of the resources you have to build a roster quickly, and you're going to have to build and rebuild every year. It's not about just getting that steady guy who'll build a good program and you win 5 games, then you win 6 games, then you win 7. I'm not sure that's how it's going to work anymore.
So Dan Wetzel, who joins us, and a part of the parting statement from outgoing Tom Allen was he had prayed that IU now really gets into, accepts, and embraces NIL in football with that program for the future, because that clearly is where everybody is right now, which I think, and rightly so, probably discouraged some IU fans thinking that maybe they should have been on top of that prior to where they are right now, I guess. So it seems like that there is going to be a lot of work to be done by whomever is the next head coach here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was baffling a few years ago how many schools tried to reject out of principle or something. I don't know that they didn't, this NIL situation. I don't like it. That's not how we want to do things. This is it was so weird and it's unfathomable. And really a lot of programs, the leadership of those programs did a complete disservice to the program and the fans by embracing that. If there's a new salary cap wrinkle or something in the NFL and you just sit there and go, well, I don't like that. I like the old way we did things. Wait, what? We don't care. What are the rules? What are the rules? What can you do? Get good players. And for some reason, college sports, it's just so stuck in the mud, and people really have a moral opposition to compensating players that they sat there and watched these rules and just said, yeah, I don't want to participate in that. That's not how we want to do things. And there's a lot of programs that did it. And, it's not just Indiana. It's a lot of them. They just didn't like it. And it's like, well, this is the world. Like, industries change. And you either embrace it or you don't. And I'm now seeing all these coaches trying to embrace it, going, we need money. We need to spend money on this, and we need to do this. And, yeah, that's how it's going to work. These kids have value, and someone's going to pay them. And tough break. I don't know what to tell you. The Supreme Court went 9-0 one way. It's not going back. It's just you either accept it and try to win in that system, or you sit there and say we're just never going to win. But I would be all over NIL. There's nothing that can stop. If anything, a program like Indiana, it can be an advantage because you can not never, but it would take a great deal of time for you to match Ohio State or Michigan in tradition and in stadium size and facilities and all of those things, right? You just can't be Michigan or Ohio State. But you can raise the money to compete with them. There's a lot of wealthy people at Indiana that could raise that money. You can target your money on specific recruits and maybe beat those schools every once in a while. Like, there's so much opportunity if you're aggressive with this that's actually good for non-traditional programs. When everything's just about were you good 50 years ago? Yeah, Indiana doesn't stand a chance. Now it's about what can you do for me tomorrow? Well, Indiana should be able to do as much as anybody else tomorrow.
Dan Wetzel of YahooSports.com, a little college football conversation regarding IU's gig and other stuff. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We've talked about this before. The likelihood that there's a ceiling for NIL and this being an outlet as we get into the future further down the road. But I also was curious about this. Are we going to see a time, and I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know. Maybe it has been in some certain places. I just haven't seen it yet. But a devaluing of the head coach and how much money he makes and more of a focus on making sure you give, the most talented players as much as they can to get there, because that's something that you're kind of talking about, I think, right now in terms of IU. I mean, is it going to always matter who's coaching you in the era of NIL compared to how much you can give to the player to come play at your school?
Well, it's going to be really interesting. Like Jim Harbaugh was talking about this yesterday, saying I'd take less money if the players can get more. Obviously, you need a quality coach because you have to coach the team and you have to attract the players. You can't draft these players. There's still recruiting. There's still charisma and all that. But just pouring money in and hoping a coach works and not putting into the roster. And again, I know these are foreign ideas, but this is reality. Nobody blinks and thinks, hey, this is crazy. Andy Reid doesn't make as much money as Patrick Mahomes. You go, well, of course he doesn't. There's only one Patrick Mahomes. We get another coach. Andy Reid's a Hall of Fame coach, but he's not worth $50 million a year, whatever they're paying Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is worth even more than that. So at what point do you sit there? I see Indiana, $15.5 million to not coach.
Yeah.
And you sit there and go, geez, what if they said to Allen, hey, we'll pay you $2 million, but we're going to take the $13 million, and I mean, obviously it's his money, so I don't think he'd do it, but we're going to take $13 million and put it into the team. If you were a startup business, right? If you're a business and you're trying to attract talent and you're going against a Fortune 500 company and you're a smaller business, how do you beat the Fortune 500 company with the big, tall skyscraper and the package of benefits and all the different things that say, oh, I work for this Fortune 500 company? You say, I want you to work for my company. How do you do it? You have to pay them a little more. You have to offer opportunity. You have to do different things. And that's how you got to approach talent acquisition at this point. And, again, if Indiana has probably not beaten Ohio State for a recruit, rarely, right? Very rarely that if both Indiana and Ohio State want to recruit, that recruit's going to go to Ohio State for the last 30 years. But what if Indiana says, look, you're our priority guy. You can be the 23rd best player in the Ohio State recruiting class. You can be the number one player here. Let's spend some money on you. If you look at the University of Missouri, they have been extremely aggressive on NIL, and they have signed a number of five-star players. They have a kid, Their wide receiver is one of the best in the country. They are targeting the guys in their state, putting more money into them than the Alabamas and Georgias, and they're keeping them, and they're getting good players. They're getting some great players, and they're building with the good ones. They're 10-2. There's nothing about the University of Missouri that says they should be this good. They've never been really this good in the past. They don't have a ton of tradition or anything like that, but they're being very smart under these rules. And that's why I think, much as there's a lament or this idea that we can never do this, I don't agree with that. Indiana has many, many fans, many alums, a lot of money around. You only need some really wealthy ones that want to go in on it. You can target your recruits, and you can start picking off. You're not going to beat Ohio State for every recruit, but maybe you beat them for a couple. Maybe you beat Michigan for one. Maybe you beat Ohio State for one. Maybe you beat Notre Dame for one. Hey, that's better than you were doing in the past. You slowly can build up. There's ways to do this, and NIL, if you're willing to go in on it, and not just the amount of money, but how you do it, can level the playing field a little bit.
So Dan Wetzel of YahooSports.com, the latest podcast with he and his friends, College Football Inquirer, at Dan Wetzel on the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, to find that instantaneously. It is a fantastic listen. Make no mistake about it. What do you think the playoff is going to look like after this weekend when it's said and done?
Well, it's a wild one. This is the first one we've had where nobody is safe. Nobody can lose and be guaranteed a spot. If you go back 1 year ago, Georgia, Michigan, and TCU all could have lost and still made the playoff. TCU actually did lose in the conference championship game. Lost to Kansas State, the Big 12 championship, and still made the playoff. And the only one that was on the brink was USC. USC lost. Ohio State jumped in. Some years there's no teams that are going to get replaced. This one, there are 8 teams with a shot, 7 with a legitimate one. Ohio State's kind of got to run they got to run like a straight flush on the at the end here, but they could still conceivably get in. But so there's 7 to 8 teams that can get in, but there's also 7 and 8 that could not. Like if Georgia loses to Alabama, I don't know that they're in. Not if the way certain things go. If Michigan loses, they're not necessarily in. There's so much competition this weekend. It is the best final weekend we've had in the 10 years of this 4-team playoff. And this weekend should be crazy because everyone's going to be jostling around. So, I expect Georgia to win. I expect Michigan to win. But I don't know. We're going to Oregon and Washington. Oregon's a 9-point favorite over Washington, who already beat Oregon. That's going to be fascinating on Friday night. What do you do with a potentially undefeated FSU team that no one thinks is that good because they lost their star quarterback? But how do you leave a 13-0 team out potentially? What if the SEC knocks themselves all the way out? What do you do with Texas? Texas beat Alabama. This could work itself out, or it could be a headache of all headaches for this committee. They might actually earn their money. So crazy weekend. I don't know if anyone could tell you who's going to get in.
Who's going to win the Heisman when it's said and done?
That's a good question, too. I mean, we have Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And we have Michael Penix. One of those two, if they have an absolute monster game on Friday night with everybody watching, has the opportunity to win that Heisman. But you also have Jaden Daniels down at LSU, who I thought preseason would win the Heisman. Has been spectacular, and his numbers are almost Joe Burrow-esque. Tremendous player. Not his fault that the defense isn't that good. So I think it's one of those 3 guys. But the Friday night game between Oregon and Washington could determine it if one of them, has, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or something like that.
It's Dan Wetzel here. And again, they discuss on Yahoo Sports in their latest podcast, the coaching carousel, which is ongoing right now. And obviously getting set for the conference championship games, too. You mentioned Brian Hartline over at OSU. The most often mentioned around here is Justin Fry with Ohio State, the old line coach, and has obvious ties to IU in the past here.
Yeah, it'd be good, too. I mean, there's a lot of guys. I would just want what's our plan, right? It's just the business has changed, and that's what happens in industry. So it's like it's not – I remember Indiana. I can't remember which coach it was. Indiana had a coach once that made a priority of going to every high school in Indiana. he went to every high school in Indiana to try to like meet the coach. I can't remember which coach it was. It was maybe 15, 20 years ago. And like that was how you had to build a program. Like we're just going to meet, we're going to try to get some good Indiana kids and build up slowly and all that. Now it's like you got to be way more aggressive.
Was it the late Terry Hepner that did that when he was hired?
It might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been. You got to look it up. It was. I remember it being a really cool story because there was some like school. You know, like what's your smallest grouping? Like Class A or
Class A.
Whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then he came in and some coach was like, I couldn't believe it. Like we haven't had a player out of here in 50 years. Like, what are you doing here? We don't have recruits. But that's how you had to do it back then. And like, there's certain things you go, okay, if we could get a guy like that, right?
Right.
If we could get, and we could build up slowly, like a Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State, he just grinds it, and then you're on top, right? But now it's you can build quick, you can make moves quick, but you got to have the right mentality to do that, and how to do the resources, and how to set yourself up as something. There's real opportunity. It isn't easy, but it's never been easy. I mean, right? History of Indiana football tell you it's never been easy, but there's real opportunity. It's just what's that guy? And so I think it's a very different coaching search in this era than you would have had, in the last, whatever the one prior to this.
I had ample bourbon ready for you this weekend if you were going to make it down here. So.
Oh, well, wait a minute. I might maybe
better change of plans here.
Yeah, hold on. I might be rescheduling.
If you do, text me and let me know because I got ample bourbon.
I will test your reserves if I get down.
Well,
there. So
believe me, I have plenty. I have plenty.
All right, we'll try to stay upright.
You got it, buddy. If you get down here anytime soon, let me know, and we will connect when you get down here.
We'll do that for sure. Right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, Dan. Appreciate it. It's Dan Wetzel, yahoosports.com. Always really good on the show. And probably going with the place, and I started the conversation as we did the crossover with Jake right before the 3 o'clock hour regarding NIL. I was talking to a booster, a significant booster, a little bit earlier today at IU about that, and it wasn't like I hatched this original idea. The idea was presented to me, and I passed that thought along to Jake, and then obviously just to Dan Wetzel, and Dan Wetzel was already well in front of it with his particular take. He's got a podcast with Pat Forty and others right now. It's called the College Football Inquirer. It is fresh podcast at Dan Wetzel, social media wise, at Dan Wetzel. And these guys are saying it was Jerry DiNardo that went to every school in the state when he was hired here. And that was the coach that evidently Dan Wetzel was referencing right there. All right, quick break. We'll come back. I got time for you on the other side. We'll lead with Matthew in Maine. Don't go anywhere, Matthew. We'll come back with you to start. Stephen Holder coming up top of the 5 o'clock hour. There is no doubt in this case that the Colts at 6-5 would surprise most. And there is no doubt that you can't see the future without Anthony Richardson being a part of the present, but that right now doesn't matter. Some winning in December, some good fortune in December, some fun in winning in December. It's in front of them right now. Yeah, they're not great by any stretch of the imagination. They can lose on Sunday. They can lose to anybody. But schedule-wise, they can also win and make this incredibly interesting, more interesting than most of us thought. We'll come back with that. Your thoughts, Stephen Holder, top of the 5 o'clock hour, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
what your name is.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Looking for a touchdown here. 7:45 to go in the fourth quarter. The Colts lead by 3. Minshew goes out of the gun, ball between the hash marks. Taylor's his back to the right side. Isaiah McKenzie is the slot receiver to the right. Shotgun snap, gives it to Taylor, and he backpedals his way in. Touchdown! Jonathan Taylor. 2 rushing touchdowns today for JT. Colts extend their lead. It's 26-17 as the confetti flies here at Lucas Oil.
Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, the Call, Colts Radio Network. Clearly, I wanted to go with Jonathan Taylor because he did do it again. It was again. I should have gone with Simple Minds. Don't you forget about me, Shane Steichen. Don't you forget about me. And I don't care if it's second quarter, third quarter, first quarter, fourth quarter, overtime. Don't you forget about me. I mean, really, if you wanted to be critical about something yesterday, that would have been it, because oddly enough, in the second quarter, after that miscommunication between Downs and Minshew, which looked clear, Minshew looked a bit scrambled after that. He was shaky at best. Don't you forget about me. Tonight, by the way, Pacers, Trailblazers, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We get a bail early because of that in the Colts roundtable, so 5:30. As we said back in the 90s, I don't think I ever said this. I'll be Audi 5000. So you get the Pacers and Blazers tonight. And by the way, this will mark, so give him some love if you're down at the Fieldhouse this evening, the 30-year anniversary of Chris Denari's first play-by-play on TV. And the game was on Channel 4 when Butler beat IU in basketball. That's interesting, 30 years ago. You know what I was doing? And this is funny, I remember this vividly. I was, and I blank you not on this, I was at the Bloomington Country Club. And I was DJing a wedding at the Bloomington Country Club when Chris did his first play-by-play television game. I was DJing a wedding, and this is a true story right here. The couple came up and said, we want our first dance song to be Moon Dance by Van Morrison. And I go, can we rethink that? So, good Lord. I know you guys from around here, you've probably been to Sports Bar and Kilroy's Original 1,000 times. Have you not just been worn out on that song? Like it's right up there with American Pie and Closer, I Am to Fine. Those 3 songs have absolutely been worn out if you ever attended IU, or if you're from Bloomington, or if you ever went to any of the Bloomington bars. Those 3 songs were absolutely worn out. I said, hey, no, can we do something else and not Moon Dance? So we did something else and not Moon Dance. Happy 30th anniversary to Chris Denari. And this week will be the final as an anchor at now CBS 4 for one of the legends here in local television just for decades, and that's Debbie Knox. And nothing, by the way, was more glorious than back at Wish TV Channel 8 when I could watch it. And you had the franchise, Mike Ahern, and you had Debbie Knox with Debbie Knox, You Make the Call. That was one of the staples when I first started with Mark Patrick. Debbie Knox, You Make the Call was awesome. And so is Debbie Knox. So let's give Debbie Knox a shout out, as she will be anchoring for the final time, and she will call it a career which has been absolutely incredible. So a shout out to Debbie Knox. Debbie Knox, You Make the Call was awesome. All right, 239-1070 is the number. Dan Wetzel a little bit earlier. Dan Wetzel spot on as Jim Harbaugh was saying about how much you pay college coaches. Players deserve the money more in their short-term play in comparison to the long-term of the coaches. And that's what I brought up a little bit earlier because I said I was talking to a booster of IU earlier, and that was his point of reference. When does you take away from the coach and give back even more to the player? And Dan's thought was, hey, in this era of rules with NIL, the best talent, the most money, come up with money, and then you can worry about the coach later. I mean, I know that there is some sort of even ground here, but it was an interesting take to say the least. If you missed any of it, Dan Wetzel, yahoosports.com, podcast 1075, thefan.com. Matthew is in Maine at 239-1070. Hello, Matthew. How are you?
Hey, JMV. I'm doing well.
Are you missing the JMV takeover on Saturday? Was it a tough one on Saturday with no takeover at River Jacks?
Yes, it was indeed.
Well, I miss you guys a great deal. We'll be back before you know it on New Year's Eve. What do you got?
All right. So, as you know, we're 3 days away from the Indiana-Maine women's basketball game.
Yep.
Now, locally, for you folks in the fan, is that going to be televised? I want to make sure there's as many eyes on this game as possible.
I don't know if that's on Big Ten Network or not. I'm assuming that they'll. I don't know. I guess I should not assume. I don't know, to be honest, Matthew. I probably should, but I don't. And that is the McKenzie Holmes close to home game, right, in Maine, coming up this week. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I listen to all three shows on the fan from time to time, and not one of you guys talk about this team enough or at all.
Well, I'm telling you, we all need to have the crap knocked out of us. You're right. I mean, I will say this. I think once we are so in the midst of really so much going on right now. I think once, certainly football kind of clears out a little bit from the season. And certainly that's what took place a year ago as IU continued, for example, to win. Then, I had on McKenzie and a number folks from the team. So what'll happen? It just I don't know. Just not, I guess, at the end of November. We should be punished for it, though. There's no doubt, Matthew. Especially Query. Got to punish him thoroughly.
I would. He doesn't take my calls.
Well, son of a gun. I'm going to punish him for that. We got to have your calls on here. Matthew in Maine. Anything else?
No, I think that'll do it for now. Just all of you local Hoosiers listening out, you guys don't know how lucky you are to have multiple sports things to focus on. That's all I'm saying.
You got that right. You got that right. But you have Shawshank. You have Buxton.
That's true. Be driving by it Thursday night.
Hey, Matthew, I appreciate you. Talk again soon.
All right, thank you.
Matthew in Maine listening on the app. See, a variety of ways you can listen. And so I want to bring in everybody. That's why I mentioned the IHSAA and streaming their finals. I would have other avenues. I would ease people into it. You gave them about 2 months of a heads up, and not enough people knew. I'm kind of want to wonder the numbers. And I don't want spun numbers. If they're real and they're spectacular, then so be it. But I do want to know the real numbers. I just don't want to see people left out of it. It's too important. And even with these games not being that competitive, because obviously in these finals you saw one team better than the other, substantially in a lot of cases, I just would always want to have a television option. I've said this here too. I want as many options as possible. I've got to have everybody. I've got to have all of you here. I can't have you wandering off someplace else, jacking around with somebody else. If you're going to jack around, you'll be jacking around in my business. Wes writes this. I remember when Debbie Knox did the Friday NFL picks with you and MPOS back in the day. The Debbie Knox, you make the call, was glorious, Wes. T-Mobile Ray. Last time T-Mobile Ray was on, it was at the end of the show. We had to go, but he also mentioned something negatively about 33. I was a little hype. I'm settled down right now, T-Mobile Ray. How are you?
Hey, JMV. Nice seeing you in Touchdown Town.
Hell yeah, man. It was. I'm glad you were over there. It was raining a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed with Colts Nation.
What?
I know people people aren't. You only believe what you can see.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed. Touchdown Town looked like a ghost town yesterday when I pulled up.
Well, it wasn't exactly great weather there, T-Mobile, Ray.
Hey. In any weather, we show up for the blue, man.
Well, I think they were in there. They were in the building, but yeah, roaming around in the cold rain in the parking lot may not have been on too many agendas. But I will say this. I thought it helped our crowd at the tent. Now, they were gone by the time you got there, but there was a big crowd. I don't know if it was us in the incredible knowledge we had, that wealth of knowledge, or if it was the fact that they were trying to stay out of the rain. But I'll take it either way.
Yeah, I guess I should have cut my time short sitting in my car smoking a doobie before I walked down to the stadium.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Make sure you don't want to leave any doobage remaining. I'll make sure you get that sucker done. All right?
Well, I listened to you guys for about an hour before I actually get out the car and walk down to the stadium. So I'm listening right at 10.
Well, I mean, and listen, we'll give you ample time to smoke that doob too. Because we'll keep talking. Yes.
But I got a question, but yes. I got one statement. I want to hand out some flowers from yesterday's performance. Chris Ballard, he's that guy. I know we all doubted him around here, but Rodney Harrison, Rodney, where the heck that?
Ronnie Harrison, you got, yeah.
So I give that credit to Chris Ballard. The Shane Steichen move, I give that credit to Chris Ballard. How he's built out this roster where you can put a backup quarterback in there, a confident backup quarterback in there, and can have this team afloat mixed in with that excellent coaching from Shane. So I give all the credit and praise to Chris Ballard, Jim Irsay. I just want to give them their flowers now because we need to do so. And I was watching you here on the YouTube chat, John, and a question popped in my head because I seen you in your look like your basketball wear there.
Yes,
basketball or
I'm always ready. I'm always in basketball wear. Yes,
but I want to know if you had to build a team between, and of course 5 guys, between the Indian media staff and your friends there at 1070. Who would you roll with?
Oh, man, that's a hell of a question right there. I'll be honest with you. I think, and I haven't seen him play, I just know my friend Tony Donahue's played with James Boyd before, the Athletic. I think James can play. And now, could we be on the same team, or would it have to be a team from the fan here?
Yeah, it can be a mix of it.
Yeah, so, Jake has played before. I would trust Jake. It's not golf, so I don't know about Kevin. And I love Andy Sweeney. I don't know if Sweeney could play basketball at all. I don't know. Maybe he can.
Sweeney looks like he can run point.
Sweebo's a turnover waiting to happen right there, I'm assuming. I know he can't guard anybody, but as long as the ball got to me and I could knock it down, that would all be good. But I will say this, I think Boyd can play from what I have heard. There are a lot of dudes that couldn't play dead, to be honest, basketball-wise, around here. But, I think Boyd can play, so... I got to come up with names. You wanted names, though.
YMCA downtown.
Yeah. The Jim Irsay family YMCA. The Irsay family YMCA, yeah.
So, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, I got to run here, but it was great seeing you yesterday, Ray.
All right. I'll see you in about a few weeks.
You got it, man. I appreciate you. I don't know. Calabro probably can't play. I don't think AC can play. None of those nerd producers they have over there can play. Hagen, yeah. What do you think? Widlick? I don't know if Widlick can play.
I know I can't play.
Yeah, James probably can't play. I'm guessing James cannot play. But at least you're honest about it. That's good.
I'm upfront about it completely.
Brad Brown, I can't imagine can play. I don't know anybody. Okay, I got to go here. James is like wrapping me up crazy here. Stephen Holder probably could play a little bit. Top of the hour here from ESPN. Colts 6-5. Thoughts on Nashville and a lot more. And Shaquille Leonard being a part of the stadium yesterday. And really, what I thought was a fantastic moment. We'll talk to Stephen Holder about that coming up top of the hour. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, look, honey, carolers.
The Ride with JMV.
Give me my theme music.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
No, I had a good time seeing Kiss the 27th time and final time, according to them, that they're going to play here in Indy. 27 times. Hey, by the way, too, I got to hang out with Hagen, which was awesome, but I also got to hang out with a couple of legends in the loft on Saturday night, and that's Ace Cosby and Tommy G, Tom Griswold of the Bob and Tom Show. Man, what a great time that was. I had not seen either in forever. And that was my first time seeing Kiss, and I'm glad I got to go see Kiss. And shout out to Hagen. Good hang with Hagen. Saw a lot of you there, too. But Tommy G and Ace Cosby, everybody. It was a good hang at Cambridge Fieldhouse on Saturday night. The 27th and final time Kiss plays Indianapolis. Quick break. We'll come back. Your calls if you're on hold. Stephen Holder of
us, 7 a.m. right here on The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way.
We're on a mission from God.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
And here is a mega, a monstrous, an enormous 3rd down and 3 coming up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And they got 2 downs to get it, so.
Shotgun snap for Mayfield. In the pocket. The ball is stripped. The ball is out. Around the 38-yard line. No signal yet. Colts ball. It's Colts ball with a recovery by Dio Adangbo. And a strip sack by Samson Ebukam.
Matt Taylor, Rick Venturi on the call, the Colts Radio Network, the deal sealer right there. Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports a little bit earlier, podcast 1075thefan.com. Ben Davis, East Central again. Fort Wayne Allures, Fort Wayne Snyder, and Chittard. Shout out to everybody. I mean, everybody. A Lutheran. I'm telling you, it was, and hopefully you got to see everything. Now, Lutherans got themselves a little dynasty working, like East Central does down in southeastern Indiana off of I-74. So does Lutheran. Same holds true with Chittard. And again, a couple of Fort Wayne schools. And Ben Davis. You talk about Ben Davis having a great season. Shout out to everybody over on the West Side. West Side Pub, speaking of which, off of Morris. That is coming up on Friday. That's a Bud Light Blue Friday with Colts tickets for you. West Side Pub on Friday. You may have heard a little bit earlier, and I don't know why that is. It said I was at the dugout today. Clearly, I am not. However, we're going to be at the dugout. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. The dugout, that's coming up on Thursday. Me and Brent Halverson and you. The free samples happening, too. It's the dugout coming up on Thursday. Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline, too. Remember, bailing at 5:30. We've got Pacer Hoops, Pacers Blazers tonight. We've got Colts Roundtable. So we've got a hustle here with Stephen Holder of ESPN on ESPN.com who covers the Colts. Once again on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. You know what? There is nothing very picturesque about it. But giving the Colts fans a great deal of interest this time of year as we head into December. It's not something I would have anticipated, and certainly without Anthony Richardson under center. It doesn't matter, though. You live and you play in the moment, and we'll see, because their schedule is conducive. If they don't make mistakes, games they should be able to win. And they're making this final month of the regular season very interesting for Colts fans. That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And I think this is another reminder, not that we need it, but it's another reminder that this is why they play the games. The AFC, we were wrong about a few things. Okay, so I'm still okay on my over-under on the Colts. I thought the over-under on wins was around 7.
Yeah, I said 6. I said 6.
Right, so whatever. I think I'll be proven wrong. But we were also wrong about the AFC. You know, our predictions there, and this is dangerous business, predicting the NFL season. Okay, everyone knows that, but we do it anyway. And our predictions for the AFC at large were that there were going to be these 3 or 4 really elite teams, and that if you weren't in that group, you had no shot. And instead, what we have found, and this actually makes sense in retrospect, is that everybody's beating everybody. And what you have left is, you know, a couple of teams that are, well, one really elite team, I would say, in Kansas City, and then a couple of teams that we think are good. But then, look, Baltimore, one of their losses is to these guys, the Colts, right? And then you still have that issue with Miami. Like, they still really haven't beaten many quality teams. You know, so take that for whatever it means. You could say that about the Colts too, but we're not claiming the Colts are elite either, you know? So it's interesting, you know. Listen, as I said, predicting the NFL season is really risky business, and that has been proven again to be true.
If you would have told me that there would be the 7th seed in the AFC as we enter the month of December, I would have told you before the start of the season that you were a bit crazy. And that's exactly where they sit right now. So I'm the one, evidently, that's crazy. So great.
Look, you gotta handle your business, and I think that's what it's about. Like their schedule is soft. Okay, we don't need to make bones about it, or make any bones about it. Their schedule is soft. They haven't beaten elite teams. That's true. Those things are true. And they probably wouldn't be favored in any playoff game against any opponent. Okay, that's also true. An eventual playoff game if they get there. But that has nothing to do with anything. I mean, we're judging the Colts for what they are, and what they are is a team that's in the process of retooling and trying to get back to somewhere, and that process was not supposed to end this year. This was supposed to be the beginning of that process. So this is all gravy, man. It's all gravy. But I would say all the credit in the world to Shane Steichen. He deserves it. He has done a great job. This team plays with confidence, and I just sent in a story that'll run the next couple of days about something that's already been addressed, but just he coaches and he plays to win. Okay, that's what he's about. And I'm not saying other coaches didn't, but we're talking about Shane right now. And I think that fourth down yesterday was a great example of that. They're not even like one of the best teams in the NFL on fourth down. Okay, let me be clear about that. I think they're 14th in the NFL in fourth down conversions. So that's not even top 10. They're not even close. But what it is, or what they have done is when the situation has called for it, they have said, we're going to go all out and we're going to do what it takes and we're going to play to win. And sometimes that has backfired. I would go back to the Cleveland game, for example. I don't like throwing the ball out of your own end zone with Myles Garrett over there with two backups trying to block him. This is a bad idea. But in a strange way, it shows the aggressiveness and the mentality, which is we're going for the jugular. And sometimes they may get your jugular. But I like the mentality, even if I wouldn't have made that call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes he outsmarts himself. And I think you saw him do that in the second quarter yesterday, because you saw that miscommunication between Downs and Minshew, and then from that point on until the half, throwing the football was an absolute adventure for Gardner Minshew. He was completely scrambled, and I thought, running the football would probably be the play right here, but I thought those were one of those moments where we see Shane Steichen outfoxing himself.
Look, I have come to the realization, this is my opinion at least, that Shane has a little bit of cowboy in him. And what I mean is exactly what you just outlined, which is, all right, look, I know what we should do, but I can't help myself. You know what I mean? And I remember when he got hired, and we talked about in the earliest days of his tenure here, I remember talking to him about, there was something to do with offensive balance or something was the topic. And you remember in his opening press conference, he said, we're going to throw to score and run to win, which I interpreted to mean, look, we're throwing the ball and then we're going to ice it with the run. And so now that hasn't turned out to be the case. They're actually pretty balanced. They have been pretty balanced this year, but that has also been by necessity, not, I think, by design. I don't think in his heart of hearts that's the way he drew it up. But, but you're right. You're right. He's a guy who sometimes can't help himself. But again, I think it's not a good thing necessarily that you maybe are too aggressive in some moments. But overall, I think you'd rather more aggressive than not aggressive enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think
everything's situational.
Yeah. Like yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was a little bit more, and I say egregious, and it's not that bad, but that's the only word I can come up with because I have a very small dictionary in my head of words.
You host a 3-hour radio show.
Yeah, I end up saying the same crap over and over again. Is what I do. No, I thought you've got your only game breaker is 28. Yeah. Don't lose sight of that. I think that's all that I say.
Let me be clear. I don't disagree.
Right.
Okay, I don't disagree. I was saying it in the press box. And frankly, what you're afraid of in those situations is that Gardner's going to throw one to the other team. when you get a little bit too pass happy. And so that was my concern at that particular moment. And it ended up working out. It was fine. But I don't disagree. I do think there are times where somebody, maybe Jim Bob Cooter, needs to, save Shane from himself. I do think that's true. Look, Frank Reich used to do that too sometimes. As much as he was about, run the damn ball, he would get in these moments at times. I think my point is a lot of coaches do it. I think, you get into this rhythm of calling plays, and they came into this game, the Colts, they came into this game knowing that the Tampa Bay defense was pretty good against the run. You got Vita Vea and that defensive front. So, he had all his fancy pass plays on that call sheet on Sunday. And Shane Steichen was like, oh, I got him. I got all this good stuff for him, and he wanted to get to it. That's what I think this happens in these scenarios. You know what I mean? And so, that's when the cowboy in him kind of comes out.
Yeah, and if you win, that's good. It was just that moment yesterday. Mm-hmm. That was the only questionable moment I had was that. Yeah. Even that fourth down call, I know it's really easy to grasp when it works and works smashingly like that did, but really it was just the second quarter. And seeing Minshew, where you can tell when it looks like certainly he should not be throwing the football, and those were some moments where they were risking. They were really taking chances, and a couple of times where the Buccaneers flat defensively didn't take advantage of what I thought Steichen was giving them during those moments.
No, you're right. And that was my big takeaway with Tampa Bay. It was like, there are some moments here where, the Colts had a lot of missed opportunities over the course of those four quarters. And the Bucs did nothing with them. And so that's on them, man. That is totally on them. I could not agree more. But that's also the sign of a team that maybe has some room to grow over the course of the season. Every team's going to give you opportunities, just about. And the question is, what are you going to do with them? Certainly the Bucs gave the Colts some opportunities, and the opposite was also true. It was the Colts that made more of those opportunities. So the key down the stretch is going to be stop giving the opponent so many opportunities, though, for the Colts.
Yeah, make no mistake about that. Stephen Holder joins us from ESPN, ESPN.com. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I want to get a little focus on Nashville coming up on Sunday in a minute. I thought, to me, the video and the fact that Shaquille Leonard was at that game and was shown on the big screen after the video was freaking awesome. I've got some people saying, why'd you think it was awesome, blah, blah, blah. And I suggest this. I would have been too big of a wuss to show up like that. There was no way I would have shown up to a situation like that. I would have been wussified, stayed at home like a lot of people would have. But I thought it was cool for him to get that one last kind of, embrace and then, showing how he felt about the fans here one final time like that. And I thought it was cool of the Colts to present that opportunity to him in the fashion in which they did.
100% agree. Think about it. This guy, for 4 seasons, was as good as any Colts player we've ever seen. I don't think that's an exaggeration. What more do you want? He's a 4-time, 4 straight seasons All-Pro. We've never seen a debut like that, And that's how I think we want to remember him. And I think that gave him the opportunity to, as Zaire Franklin mentioned to me, he got the send-off he deserved. And I thought that was really appropriate and just really cool to see. I'm with you. I'm very happy it happened. And, for all of Shaquille Leonard's, complaining to media over the years about, you guys are all against us. And, we would have these run-ins sometimes. And it's not a big deal. I'm not complaining. I'm saying it would sometimes get exhausting or whatever, right? And this is inside baseball, sausage making and all that. But I say that to say, despite all of that, I never took offense to it because the next day he was fine with you. And you come to realize he's just a competitor. And that's all it was with him. And so the same thing about his recent complaining about playing time, it's why the organization didn't perceive it the way some on the outside perceived it. because that's what made him great. What made him great is I think I'm better than everybody. I'm the best. And you can't tell me I can't do something. That's what made Shaquille Leonard great. I know not everybody understands that. I get it. But I'm telling you, I spent enough years around this guy and seen him in action, and I know how this organization feels about him. They weren't trying to make an example out of him. They weren't sending a message to the locker room. None of that. None of it is true. This was just a really, really painful decision that had to be made because he wasn't going to play. And not playing would have crushed him, and he probably would have been not able to handle it very well. And I think Shaq knows that in his heart of hearts. I really do. And last thing I'll say, I heard this today, which is kind of cool. I don't think anybody will get mad at me for sharing this. This is what he means to the organization. Many people with the organization were able to see him yesterday, and that includes Chris Ballard's family. His kids went in there and had an emotional moment with Shaquille Leonard in that suite. I mean, it doesn't get any closer to home than that. So if you think, Chris Ballard made this decision lightly, that tells you everything you need to know.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that.
No.
With a player being cut and then being there, especially a cut of that magnitude, especially. Yeah.
25 years of doing this, I can't think of a comparable situation. It was stunning in a good way. It's stunning, and I think it's a unique situation, which is why you had a unique circumstance in that particular moment. Because, here's a guy who, he left it all out there. He loved the Colts. The Colts loved him. He just couldn't do it anymore at the level they needed from him, and that just limits your options on what you can do. And so, I don't know. I think it probably says more about Shaq than the organization. I don't think they did anything wrong per se. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, as you pointed out earlier, like not having the guts to show up. If it were you, I think it says a lot about.
Oh yeah,
that,
there's no way. If this place ever did that to me, I wouldn't show up with anything they did. Yeah,
yeah.
There's no doubt.
And I'll say,
yeah.
I'll add this in closing. I went to his turkey giveaway last week, like a lot of us in local media, and I tell you, I walked away from that feeling like, you know what? He felt there was almost a sense of relief in talking to him. I couldn't believe just how normal he was. He talked about it, the whole thing matter-of-factly. He had this one moment, where he said, I wish I could have been there for my guys to the end. And I could tell that there was pain. And that was hard to see. I like Shaq a lot. But overall, my big takeaway was, man, it's like he almost understands. It's almost like he's understanding about it. You know what I mean? Even though it hurt. So a very weird all-around situation, and I get why people don't get it, but that's because it's a really unique situation.
So Stephen Holder, who is with us, whose suite was he in? Just a Colts suite?
I thought it was his, actually. I think it might have been his. That's what I kind of understand, but I'm not 100% on that.
Now, do you think he gets signed this week to play someplace else? And here's the other thing. This is longer term. Would the Colts put him in the Ring of Honor?
That is a great question. Well, the second question is a great question. Let's go to the first one. Will he get signed? I mean, he's in Dallas today. I think there's a chance. I do think there's a chance that they bring him in. It would be a very Cowboys kind of move. A big name player who could kind of help them down the stretch. He would fit, I think, the culture of the Cowboys, big personalities, all of that. So it actually could work. The question would be how much can he offer them on the field? And that's a question that they have to answer. And I don't know, but I could see it working. Let me rephrase that. I could see it happening. Whether it pans out, I don't know. But I could see it happening. I could see the Cowboys doing this. Look, financially, it costs you nothing. The Colts are paying the freight here. So there's really no impediment other than you just think, okay, this guy is not good enough to help us. And now the Ring of Honor. That's a great question. I actually think there's good enough reason to do it. I mean, again, he was defensive rookie of the year. He was, as someone in the organization told me, in their opinion, for 4 years, he was a top 5 defensive player in their estimation. And I would have a hard time arguing with that. You know, we can quibble about who gets ranked where and all that. Okay, fine. But I mean, that's not an irrational statement that he was a top 5 defensive player his first 4 seasons. I don't know. I just think the impact that he had on this organization, the way he single-handedly closed out games in some instances, I got no problem with Shaquille Leonard being in the Ring of Honor. I actually think it's appropriate. Had he done that for 10 years, you put him in the Hall of Fame and you don't even ask questions, right? So why shouldn't he be in the Ring of Honor?
Well, we'll see. I mean, yeah, I kind of wondered that myself. Yeah.
I get the question.
Yeah. And I thought I would ask. Somebody else had asked me that. I thought I would ask you, and that's certainly a question that's probably more set for a team that's, you know, not where they are right now in the offseason. But I had you here, and I thought I'm going to go ahead and present it to you and see what you think. Stephen Holder joins us. 23-16, the first time out at home for the Colts over the Titans. Round 2 coming up on Sunday. Very winnable schedule, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, too. Certainly, what's this Titans team bring to the table compared to the first time the Colts saw them earlier this season?
Well, you know, one thing that we have to confront is that they will not have Grover Stewart for this game, and that doesn't help. You know, certainly you got to deal with Derrick Henry. I mean, just looking at his numbers, he hasn't had a big game in a while, but you know, he's going to have an impact on the game. There's no doubt about that, particularly with the rookie quarterback. And so the Colts have been, I think, a little too soft against the run lately. I've been concerned about it for a while. I think it was true. It's been true in their last 3 games. I mean, even against Tampa Bay yesterday, you know, there were a handful of runs where you were like, okay, is this going to be a problem? And so I think that's going to be my question. You know, can they just limit the damage there, make Levis have to beat you? Just make him have to beat you, because you know, that's tough. I mean, the longer rookies play, the harder it gets, I think. You know, you get more film on them. And as you can see, I mean, I didn't see what he did yesterday, but just in recent weeks for Will Levis, it's gotten a little tougher, you know, as he's played more. And I think that's typical for young players or backup players or whatever, you know, you can kind of bring them in, throw out some wrinkles, and you have the upper hand, you know, when you're playing that guy at quarterback. But the longer they play, the less those things determine the outcome. And I think you're seeing that now with Will Levis. I mean, you know, they got a close win yesterday against Carolina, but we know that situation all too well.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so, well, whatever.
Well, Frank's going to get some. I'm not feeling sorry for Frank, though. Frank's getting some money out of it. So,
hey, listen,
yeah.
I do. There's 2 guys who, you know, there's 2 situations that have kind of hit me hard, just because I think you know, I know what it meant to them, and I think they're good people and all that. And it's Shaq. It's what's happened with Frank the last couple of years. But that being said, Frank's great grandkids should never have to work the way that things have gone here the last couple of years.
And then I don't think anybody's ever been fired mid-season in back-to-back years like that either. So, hey.
That's a bad situation up there, buddy.
You got we talked about meddlesome owners can be as problematic as a bad quarterback. And, you know, as much as we like Jim Irsay, you know, he was meddling big time a year ago. We saw how that went. Stephen, I appreciate you more than you know.
Okay, take care, man.
Stephen Holder of ESPN, ESPN.com right there. Dan Wetzel, also a little bit earlier, podcast 1075thefan.com. James, thank you for joining today and putting together this show. Got a big one coming up for you tomorrow, too. Colts Roundtable, followed by the Blazers and the Pacers coming up for you tonight right here. And we'll put in full detail who's not entering the transfer portal, because that's easier than putting out there who is in now the transfer portal. All that coming up tomorrow. Fulton, call back tomorrow. I'm going to get to you tomorrow. I promise, my good friend. Colts Roundtable, led by Matt Taylor. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere.